welcome to the July 4th edition of News from the Front Lines of Business by D.W. Huff Consulting. We realize it's the holiday here and it's July 4th, but a lot has happened, so we feel like it's time to, to reincarnate our weekly post here. So you may have noticed we've taken a bit of a hiatus, and that has to do a lot with some new changes to our business where we added investment advisory work to our list of services. So not only are we tax advisors, but also we're going to have the ability now to offer financial investment advice as well. So we had to go back to the drawing board with some of the things that we do because of the way those regulations work, and we did it. But so I'm sure everybody has seen the news lately. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act. That's a mouthful to say for sure. But it finally passed. So that the original goal was to have the thing available for President Trump to sign on July 4th, and it barely made it. So as of this time, here on July 4th at 12:41 p.m. when I'm recording this, it's good. The final provisions have kind of worked their way through the House of Representatives, and now we're ready to go. So to summarize it, it's actually very, for the most part, taxpayer-friendly bill. So we know there's going to be some cuts that are going to be happening, some programs, Medicare, Medicaid, and things like that, to kind of make up for some of the decrease in tax revenue for this thing. So we don't want to get into the political ramifications of that. For now, we're just talking about the tax part and how it affects you. So for the most part, the TCJA, Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 that President Trump enacted a while back, a lot of those provisions that were set to expire next year are not going to expire. So for the most part, that's all been extended. So very, very good news there. It does revamp some sections that were related to corporate foreign income. So once again, I think that that mission there to kind of pull things back in domestically will be affected by some of those regulations. And it terminates a bunch of clean energy tax incentives. So electric vehicles and some home improvements, a lot of things are going to be going away. And I don't know how bad it really is. I think it wasn't widely used amongst most people, at least in my client base. So I don't know, how bad that really ends up being when it's all said and done. But it is what it is. So that's kind of where we are. So just kind of look at some of the. The whole bill. I haven't read the whole thing yet, but we have highlighted a lot of things that are going to be affecting the wider range of people in our client base. So we want to kind of take a look at those. We will be mentioning a lot more of this stuff in greater detail in later videos. In the link to this video here, you can see a link to our school page, and that's a new platform we're utilizing to kind of put out a lot of content in more detail than what you're seeing on the YouTube stuff. So be on the lookout for that. There'll be a lot more discussion of all these things in much greater detail. But just highlight. So tax rates are going to stay about the same. So that's nice, because if these provisions would have expired, like the way it is now, once you exceed your standard deduction, the first bracket is at 10%, and it goes all the way up to 37%. So those rates are a little bit lower than historically has been the case, and also the width of those brackets is a little bit. So just look at the married, filing joint. The way it is now, once you get past your standard deduction, the first $23,850 will be taxed at 10%. So if these rates wouldn't have expired, that rate was going to go a lot smaller. I want to say it's somewhere around the 15,000 range. And then the 12% bracket would have kicked in, and so on. So basically, the way it is now, those brackets kind of wide. So the way it is now, your first $100,000 of taxable income, once you actually exceed 96,950, you are now out of the 12% bracket. So the first 96,000 and change of taxable income still has you taxed at 12%. Whereas if these things would have expired, that you'd have been more like in the 22% bracket. So everything about these tax brackets is good. Standard deduction is going up quite a bit. So if you're single, it's going to be $15,750. Married, filing joint is going up to $31,500. So good. So so at the end of the day, before we even start talking about itemized deductions or anything else, that standard deduction there $31,500, most people aren't going to need to bother with the more complicated tax filings, and 31 grand of income not taxed. And for older people, there's a nice benefit is that they get an additional $6,000. So once you get above 65 years of age, you get 31,500. If you're married filing jointly, gets an additional 6,000 added to it. So you got a big chunk of your income is not taxed at all. So regardless of what happens with retirement benefits and Social Security taxability and all that in the future, we got 37,500 not taxed at all. That's a help, and then everything, the tax brackets kick in as normal after that. Child tax credit is going up from 2,000 right now to 2,200, so that's a pretty helpful thing for families with a lot of children. So some other highlights on the business side of thing is this QBI. So that's been a great benefit that benefited a lot of small business owners tremendously over the years, and our client base and everybody else. And the way it works is if you have an S corporation, some other type of LLC that's operating as a business, that income gets a 20% reduction, basically. So if you made $100,000, for purposes of calculating your federal income tax, it gets reduced by 20%. So in most, there's some stipulations there, and it's not beyond the scope of today's talk. But in general, if you got a business and you're not a C corporation or something else that's taxed in its own way, you get this 20% reduction in income. So that's quite a bit when you're having a good year. This is something I just next one, the bicycle commuting reimbursement. It's not that important because not that many people use it, but I just noticed it, and I just find it funny that there was a small reimbursement that used to be allowed for that, and they've removed it. So along with the clean energy and all that stuff, they took away the ability to subsidize an employee who commutes to work. Anyways, I thought that was funny that they took the time to actually implement it in the first place and then target it for removal in this bill. So that's that. So no tax on income, on tip income, as well as the deal on overtime. Those were all talked about in very vague terms as this thing was all working its way through the system. And as it kind of turns out, it's not really going to be as great as we were hoping on the tips side of thing. That was, it's still stuff. So I guess first of all, who knows how many people really who have tip income actually claim that all anyway? Because a lot of times that's cash payment. So so whatever the case may be, there's limitations. So tip income, if you're above a certain threshold, it goes away completely, and it's limited. Let's see here. I'm gonna look up the exact amount here. Yeah, so the way it works now, you can only remove from your taxable income 25,000 of the qualified tips. Still got to pay Social Security and Medicare on it and all that good stuff. So, and then at certain income levels, it phases out completely. So yeah, so it's not really tax-free tips. It's tax-free tips on $25,000, and there's limitations on what types of industry. So I think a lot of people were thinking they were going to make whatever business they had a tip industry, but yeah, if you're not in a restaurant or a bar or some other service industry where that is customary, that's not going to apply. So there'll be a ton of further regulation there. And on the overtime deal, so that's not as great as we were hoping either. So it's another deal where we have it's an above the line deduction, which is good. So you don't have to worry about itemizing or anything like that. And it can reduce up to 25,000 of your overtime compensation. But if your adjusted gross income is above 150 if you're single, 300 jointly, phases out. So high income people aren't going to benefit from it, and there's a lot more regulations that's going to kind of fine tune that. But at the end of the day, it's not like you're going to be being able to shift things around where you make $100,000 worth of overtime income and have that removed from income. It's not really going to be the case. There will be some limitations there, and the fact that this thing you get this money, you're still going to have your regular withholding as you're going along if you in a W-2 situation, and at the end of the year when you file your tax return, that's when you actually get the money. So it's not really a credit, it's something that happens at the end of the year, and depending on how your withholding shakes out, it might not even be a noticeable refund, I guess. So I don't know, so I was not really thrilled about that, but it's something. Some further highlights: the charitable contributions. We've got some great deals there. So now, the way it is currently, if you itemize, so if you have enough itemized deductions to exceed that standard amount, which is going to be 31,000, then you would start claiming your charitable deduction. So in most cases, most middle class taxpayers, they don't get any benefit at all from contributing to charity. This new bill puts in place a way to deduct those, well, not all your deductions, but up to $1,000 if you're single, $2,000 if you're married, filing jointly, above the line. So you can move those deductions up above the line, so you don't have to itemize to benefit from them, and now you can get some kind of help for your charitable contribution. So something like that. I feel like when people give to charity, you should be able to receive some kind of benefit without the hassle of that's Schedule A. So that's in place now, or will be in place when he signs it later today. Car loan interest. So this is something that's helpful. So if you are itemizing, so it doesn't help you if you don't itemize, but we know how when we go through our itemized deductions, charity, mortgage interest, taxes, and things like that will go into that mix to determine what your itemized deductions would be. And now they are treating car loan interest not like it's personal interest. So the way it is under current law, that's personal interest. Personal interest does not get any kind of tax deduction. So they've now kind of changed that categorization of car loan interest. So now the car loan interest will be treated the same way as your mortgage interest. So there should be some help there. And there's a $10,000 cap, but still, I think for the people that are close to being able to itemize and not quite there yet, a car loan will definitely probably be the thing to kind of put them over the top. So that's interesting. We'll see how that helps people out. And then, of course, we see where they terminated a bunch of clean vehicle credits. So all those electronic vehicle things are gone now, or will be gone. And so a little less incentive there for Elon Musk's company for people who buy electric cars and whatnot. So that's it. So July 4th, hope everybody's having a good time and taking off today and not working like I am. Enjoy it. Keep in mind, too, that July 4th, we're now past the halfway part in the mark of the year. So we do need to get more serious with our tax planning and our investment planning and everything else. So you'll definitely see a lot more from us in that matter. And now we've got DW Huff Advisory is now off the ground. This registered advisor status and all that stuff we had to do with the regulators there. So that's in place, as well as tax planning. We're definitely going to be focusing a lot more on that and taking advantage of these new rules to the extent that we can, that we know what they're going to be. And things should be a lot better going forward, definitely from tax standpoint. So who knows what's going on with the rest of it with the different cuts that are going to be required now to kind of deal with the revenue shortfall, but it is what it is. So for now, that's it. Enjoy your holiday, and we'll see you out here next week.